11 minutes to 4 now. Ian Meikle, editor of City News, is with me in the studio, and we're chatting about what's in this week's City News. Ian, it's now time for you to introduce today's special guest.
Delighted to do that. It's we have a piece about vaping.
Oh no, not vaping again.
Steady fella.
I know one of our former colleagues liked to bang on about this.
Didn't he just? Anyway, it's all been sorted. The Senate has sorted everything in June, and it starts on October 1st. The new system where pharmacists and vapors, pharmacists will provide vaping materials to vapors. Everything's fine and dandy legislatively. But Ross Fitzgerald, Professor Ross Fitzgerald, from the Emeritus Professor of History and Politics at Griffith University, thinks it's failed before it started. Good afternoon, Ross. Why are you so down on this breakthrough?
Well, Mark Butler, the Health Minister, is very ideologically driven, and the way in which they've held it, they've tried to promote their ideas has been an absolute shambles. As you said, that's why Australia's failed prescription policy for vaping nicotine was finally scrapped by a federal Senate vote on June the 25th. But in my opinion, it's been replaced by an utterly unworkable pharmacy supply scheme that begins operating on, as you said, on the 1st of October.
Well, why is it unworkable, Ross?
Well, because it means that the vape black market will be thriving in Australia and will continue to sell unregulated vapes with unknown ingredients and unknown nicotine levels to anyone of any age who has the money to buy them. And it just seems to me ridiculous that vapes aren't being regulated and taxed like cigarettes are.
But a person in the street would think, well, that seems very virtuous that the pharmacy people will hand it out. That's all about health. Well, why is it such a problem?
Well, most pharmacists that I talk to think that pharmacists and vapors both hate the idea of the new system because it's extremely unworkable, and it goes in the face of experience in countries like the United Kingdom and New Zealand, who are leading the world in reducing cigarette smoking, mainly due to vapes. New Zealand has achieved what is effectively smoke-free from cigarettes with a policy it adopted in 2020 of making safer vapes easier to obtain than deadly cigarettes. And in the United Kingdom, the government is supplying for free a million vapes to help people stop smoking cigarettes. And it means that the crime gang territory war, because the vape black market and cigarette market are thriving. Yeah. And the black market will continue to sell unregulated vapes with unknown ingredients and unknown nicotine levels to anyone of any age who has the money to buy them. And that means we've seen that tobacconist shops throughout Australia have been firebombed by these criminal gangs fighting turf wars. And young people will continue to have easy access to unregulated and extremely dangerous products.
But if we're going to tax it similarly as tobacco, how does that make it any different to a tobacco black market?
Well, but it hasn't been.
No, but if we resorted to that, which seems the logical place to start, not finish.
Exactly. That's what I've been arguing for a long time. And if it is regulated and taxed in that way and available in that way, it would mean that the crime gang territory wars would decrease would decrease markedly.
Indeed.
And it seems to me that it's extremely likely that after the government has tried every policy that has no hope of working, Australia will eventually end up with such a sensible policy position on vaping.
Ross, the pharmacists hate the current arrangements, or the arrangements that are about to begin, have been.
They do indeed.
They've been very vocal about it, and one of the reasons they don't like it is because they're being pushed into a position where they're responsible for supplying a product with unknown, potentially lethal health impacts. Because we don't have enough studies on what the long-term health impacts from vaping might be. It's generally believed that it's less harmful than cigarettes, but it doesn't mean it's harmless. And pharmacists don't want to be liable for any future legal implications that might arise from that.
And that's true. And it's vaping. I've never suggested that vaping is harmless. What I am suggesting is it's the most effective way of stopping people smoking much more harmful cigarettes. Why else would the new Labor government in the United Kingdom follow on with the Conservative policy of distributing, each year 1 million vapes to people who want to stop smoking cigarettes? Or why else would the New Zealand government continue with the policy that has worked so well in stopping? I mean, New Zealand and Sweden will be eventually cigarette smoke free. That is less than 5%.
So we're looking at the worst, best option.
That's exactly right. And the fact that Mark Butler is so ideologically driven and has continued to be, that's why the previous policy was thrown out by the Senate in June.
Ross, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Ross.
Okay, lovely to talk to you both.
Likewise.
Thank you, Professor Ross Fitzgerald from Griffith University. You can read the article in this week's City News, Countdown to Failure of Pharmacy Vape Scheme. And the pharmacists don't like it.
No.
The people vaping don't like it.
Government likes it.
Well, the federal government does, but there are some politicians that disagree with that particular approach. So I'm sure the debate is not over yet.